I was having with my son. He plays soccer, and there was a racist slur on the field last Sunday. And this is a mate of his who is white, and he's used the N-word. And my son was not happy, and he's still not happy, and he's still trying to process that. And I'm not going to tell him not to, because as he pointed out, he's a kid who unfortunately has been labelled a troublesome kid his whole life, and people have had no problem calling him out for the most minute things. So if he's going to have a little bit of an irritation about something, I'm not going to intervene. That's his boundary. He feels that boundary's been crossed, and that's okay. But he said to me today, he goes, "Come on, Mum, wouldn't it bother you if someone called you the N-word?" And I'm like, I'm not projecting this onto you, son, but honestly, no. Because if someone was to say that to me, I would actually think their ignorance is hilarious. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should take on that position. If that's something that offends you, by all means, it's a very personal thing. Boundaries are different for other people. But for me personally, I would, if someone was to say that to me, or like instead of just saying, "You're stupid," and have to, that I'm a black bitch, I'd be like, "You're hilarious, actually. Is that all you've got?"
And also, you're giving them the power. Like, why would you give them the power? Like, that's it.
I genuinely, like, theoretically, yeah, I agree with you. But it's all I said to him. I said, they actually can't offend me. You can't offend me by calling me that. Because to me, you calling me that, you look like a douche.
And and agreed. And this is where this whole quelling of derogatory words and racist words, I think, is stupid. It's like, no, let them out there. Because you know why? Because how are we supposed to spot these fucking morons out there? I think it's a great... Oh, God, I wish I could use these words. But it's a great detector to show the ignorant bigots out there. Let's not try and soften society to not ever use these words. In fact, let them. Let them. Because you know what? The crowd will speak, and the crowd will demoralize these people to a point of oblivion. Our society would not put up with it. This is why policing words is such a bizarre thing. And why shouldn't we allow people to... We should. I'm a big believer. We should allow people to say horrible things. I'm not saying they should say them. There's a very different distinction there. And many people don't understand that distinction, is allowing people that it shouldn't be illegal to say something versus should you say is a very different proposition. Right? I'm not saying you should be able to say the N-word and it's okay. That's what I believe. It's like, no, it shouldn't be illegal to say it, because I want to find out the people who would want to use it. And then they should be... And then the crowd or the market, if we're talking in economic terms, will react to that, right? Most people were like, I don't want to associate with some racist asshole. That's what happens now. And that's where true cancellation should happen.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Getting cancelled for stupid things is the stupid. But where there's true, outright racism, misogyny, criminal behavior, cancelled. I couldn't care less.
Well, yeah.
When people are getting cancelled for ambiguous, random shit, that's stupid.
But this is, I think, what we're trying to say in this segment.
Hang on.
But I think
let me add another point. Sorry. And talking about the whole people of how I really think I don't see colour, or the whole idea of seeing colour. It's not something that you really feel happens in Australia. The only version of it that you see in Australia legitimately, and for whatever reason, I'm not going to get into this now, but Australia versus Indigenous people. That's probably the only distinction I see within Australia that's clearly pointed out. But one thing I was going to add on top of that as well is I heard this comedian the other day, Adam Carolla. He's hilarious. But he's a comedian, and in comedy, people punch on stereotypes, which some people would say is racist or whatever it is. And he said, and his thing was like, the true racist wouldn't come out and say the things that they really mean. The comedian is saying it because it's to make that cultural observation, and people see that and they laugh. just in life,
Yeah.
the person who does probably make the out of the uncouth racist joke, which isn't intended to be malicious. There's a malicious part to this, right? Versus not. That's the person I would less think is racist than the person who's pernicious and doesn't
Yeah.
say anything. And I thought that was fascinating as well.
Yeah, it's a good observation. I think maybe one of the reasons they've blanketed it is because people's interpretations of malicious are so different.
Oh, the subjective,
They
is it?
just
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to stamp it out completely and just go, we're not going to tolerate it at all. Because this person, so I might say, for me, it's if someone was to aim that slur at me, I'd be like, you're hilarious. Not in a good way, but you're a joke, mate. You can't
But they would be
actually.
like in your was that Nate soccer?
Yeah.
In that instance, that's a great example of that kid was intentionally being malicious by using that word. It wasn't used in jest or anything like that. It was like he felt he needed to get this person, so he said it as a slur, as a derogatory slur.
I still don't know the details. I'm still not pushing on the details. What I am encouraging my son to do in his time is the way that I've handled it is to say, if you've taken offense to something and you feel your boundaries being crossed, that is absolutely something that you need to hold on to. But I also think, like, I'm very much about two things can be true, right? You have to also accept that there have been many times, son, where you have said something, like your brain's gone so quick and you've said something or you've done something or whatever, and afterwards you have felt like shit and you have just been like, God, I hope they forgive me. I hope this person, I didn't mean it like that. I said, don't forget, because nobody gets it right every single time. And if you're going to hold people to that standard, then you hold yourself to that standard, where I think a lot of disappointment and self-loathing happens because it's an impossible standard. I said, don't be so superior in your thinking. I'm not saying we let it go or you can't be hurt or insulted. All of that can be true and we can manage that. And that's the coach, right? So I know that will be managed properly. But I said, I don't want you to be someone who takes that higher ground and forgets that there's been times where you've splurted shit out and you've been like, shit, I didn't mean
you
that.
said hurtful things at a reactionary stage.
Another go. Like this, you and this kid have been good mates for 3 years. You've been not only mates, but you've been teammates as well for 3 years. It would be a shame that it can't be repaired because of a slip.
Yeah. And is he really, like I would say, do you think the words he's used is a reflection of who he really is, given he is friends with you as well?
Absolutely not. Nah. His parents are great. He actually, this particular kid, so he's the coach, right? But I'm not going to use any names, so I'm happy to say it. But this particular kid, he's been on one for the last few weeks, right? And he's just...
On one? What do you mean by that?
I think he's just had a little bit of a testosterone spurt, and he is just on the field. He's fucking fire, right?
Oh, he'd be fire easy. Okay.
He keeps getting yellow cards, but he's a sick little player, right? And he keeps getting yellow cards, and Matt will be like yelling out from the sidelines, mate,
take it easy,
stop it, we need you next week. But he's just, I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, or maybe in the last month, he's just got a fire in him. And it feels like, I've got 2 boys, so I feel like I can have some say on this. There is between 13 and 16, these bursts of testosterone that boys get. And they do things. And then later on, they reflect and they're like, shit, I didn't mean it like that. It's not like he punched him in the mouth. It was, and the other thing is, this is the other thing, because I'm all about accountability. The other thing I discussed with him, my son, is to say, you also have to take some accountability. You can't be throwing that word around. And when you do use that word, you use that word in a playful, very innocuous manner. There is no malicious intent there whatsoever. Regardless of how some other people might perceive it, when he's throwing that word around, there is no malicious intent there. I said, but what you have to understand is if you're going to, in one context, you're going to throw it around a little bit, and then other people perceive that, and then that is open to interpretation. That is, you are leaving yourself open to say it's okay. And if you're not someone who reads, if you're a 15, 16-year-old boy, your ability to read those very nuanced cues, it's not your priority. It's not your priority.
The fascinating part for me there is that he thinks he has a license to use the word in general. How did he get that?
Yeah,
that's fascinating. Yeah, I've always got this good bit of like.
You need to take a little bit of accountability as well. You can't be just banter and then decide on one occasion your feelings got hurt. I don't want to discredit his feelings, and I don't want it to be like I'm not paying attention, and help him navigate that in a mature way. To me, it's not even about the trivial nature of this. It's about learning how to be pissed off with a mate and work through it. Don't just be cutting people off, because if you do that, cut dickheads off of, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But not good mates who have made a mistake. Come on. Gotta have a little bit more grace than that, I feel.
I'm keen to circle back on our...
Maybe you called me a fuckhead.
Not a fuckhead. I don't reckon that's...
Oh, no. You call me a fuckhead. But it's not like... Fuckhead. It's not like that. It's like, don't be a fuckhead. Come on, man. You know what I mean? What? Am I going to get pissed off every time you say that? We wouldn't be friends. We would have been finished up 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
But that's what I just want to train. I just want to train my kids to be able to go, where's the... Did I love that? No. But can I see past it a little bit?
Has anyone created a skit on how much black do you need to have to use the N-word?